Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome to the floor of my living room. I am feeling the need to just be a little bit more casual, feel very grounded, taking it easy, and being really, really soft as we move through this eclipse season. If you have been with me for a while, you know I am a very firm believer in approaching eclipse season from a very soft place rather than kind of getting ourselves geared up and hyped up and overwhelmed energetically. I stand by that. I think this is a very tender eclipse season. There's a lot of reweaving going on. There's a lot of threads that are getting reworked and put in new positions. And because of that, it's even more important that we go slow with this, that we are really, really tender with it, and not trying to kind of get into this ambitious headspace with it where we are forging forward, we're going to make it happen, right? And I think the symbolism of this particular eclipse season is very much about hearing our bones sing, our soul song sing, and that requires a softer approach. So we are heading into our second eclipse of this season. We had our first one with the Aries new moon and solar eclipse on April 19th, and this is that second eclipse. It's a Scorpio full moon and an prenumbral lunar eclipse, which will be visible in like a lot of Europe, Asia, Africa. But prenumbral eclipses are also very poetic because it's about the moon. It's not a total lunar eclipse. It's this soft entering into the shadow, the Earth's kind of larger shadow. And I feel like there's this softness to this. There's a symbolic understanding that we are gently stepping into some new insight, stepping into some new ways, stepping into some new understandings of ourselves, stepping through some doorways, as always with eclipse seasons, right? Which we have every 6 months. It's a really natural cyclical pattern that we work with living here in this solar system. And kind of the subtitle for this Scorpio full moon is that we're not machines. And this is not about the constant striving for the future, the constant striving for who we're becoming, the constant striving for the goals, the constant striving to be who we think we need to be. In fact, I think this eclipse season in particular is really about looking at all of those pressures. You know, Aries and Scorpio are both very tied to Martian energy and Mars. Mars rules Aries, and it was the original ruler of Scorpio before we added Pluto into the mix. And, you know, a lot of times we think about Mars and we think about pursuit, right? We think about the pursuit of our dreams and ambitions. That animus energy that lights us up and has us moving through the world, which is beautiful and has a place and is important. However, I think there's a difference between that animus, that animating energy that is alive and creative and willing to step forward in life, and the way that it's been kind of co-opted in our culture to be about the pursuit of goals, the pursuit of climbing up the glittering mountain, the pursuit of that visibility, the pursuit of all those things that we've been told over and over again in subliminal messaging and upfront messaging that we need to pursue. And one of the things I really love about this eclipse season is bringing back in the magic of connecting to our animus, bringing back the magic of connecting into our self-confidence. But our self-confidence comes not from that outward striving, right? But being willing to sit with our bones, being willing to sit with our soul song, being willing to be in presence with that. And that is really what I think this Scorpio full moon and lunar eclipse is going to be bringing forward for us. And yes, it is sensitive. Scorpio, of course, is associated with transformation. Eclipse season is associated with transformation. So there's a sense of that kind of theme of shedding a skin and transforming. However, here's the subtle difference. And I think it is a little bit subtle and it's a little bit sneaky. For me, sometimes, you know, it can be very exciting when there's a new transit or there's a transformational transit or a moment like this to be like, all right, you know, I'm shedding that skin. I'm moving on. I'm going to be bigger, bolder, louder than ever. And that's beautiful. If you're feeling that, great. But I think for me, it's a subtle shift of thinking rather than it being about emerging and dominating and climbing the mountain. It's about the transformation that happens when we come home. And we put our feet firmly on that homecoming. And I think that is what this second eclipse is really, really about. So let's talk about some of the details with this. And by the way, I am going to be doing a really fun activation for this lunar eclipse over on my Patreon. And also in May, after Jupiter moves into Taurus and post this all the shifts that we've been going through the last couple of months, I'm going to start a 4-week series for all patrons on all tier levels. It is weaves, webs, and wending. 4 weeks of nourishment and beginning for sensitive souls. For me, this is going to be a really soft and tender way to start to work and weave with the ingredients we have just been given over the last 6 months, and to start to explore how to put those pieces together. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be 4 weeks, every Tuesday or Wednesday. I haven't decided yet. So if you haven't joined my Patreon, I really suggest you do, because we are going to have so much fun this summer, and really in nourishing and taking care of ourselves and helping ourselves move forward to where our soul song is calling us. So from this lunar eclipse on, I really want to support us all in helping us do that in a way that doesn't require us to gobble up the whole project in one go, but instead starts us off softly enough so that we can begin. Anyway, let's get back into the discussion here. So we have the sun is at 14 degrees of Taurus. It is opposing the moon at 14 degrees of Scorpio, right? There's that full moon eclipse situation going on. Now, the big aspect for this eclipse is that Uranus is pretty close by the sun. It's at 18 degrees of Taurus. So it's opposing this full moon and lunar eclipse. And this is a really interesting opposition. And I know for a fact that there's going to be a lot of descriptions of an opposition like this, especially when you bring Scorpio into the mix. Everybody loves to get dramatic about Scorpio, that this is going to be so harsh and intense and all of that. But for me, once again, it's this idea of homecoming. For me, this is an opposition that is about acknowledging our homecoming. We've been on a big journey. And when you think about where the eclipses have been happening, we've been working with the south node of the moon in Scorpio since January 2022. So almost a year and a half. This eclipse is starting to come to the end of our work with the south node in Scorpio. And this opposition with Uranus and Taurus is also an acknowledgement of a process that's been underway for a while. And there is a sense of release in this opposition. There is a sense of letting go of anything that we are holding really, really tight. Maybe a job, a title, a specific way we wanted to get to something. We didn't want to accept any other pathways to that thing. We had a way, we had an idea. And I think that there is this beautiful sense of just releasing the judgment on ourselves, releasing the judgment on our choices, releasing the judgment on the timing of everything. This opposition really asks us to do that. And oppositions will kind of shine a bright, bright light on places where we are longing for a breakthrough, for something to just crack open, rather than it kind of build tension forever and ever. And there's this big release. And I do think there could be some emotional release during this full moon. And I think it will feel amazing, to be honest, because it feels so much better when our energy is allowed to move than when we're trying to hold it back and being super tight with it. And I think this opposition with Uranus is going to help us do that. But once again, you can also think about this full moon and this second eclipse as a way to process the last year and a half, as a way to connect and confer with your spirit and your soul song. I also want to say one more thing about this lunar eclipse and this full moon and this eclipse season in general. I know we like to use kind of the symbolism of passing a test, or maybe even looking in a mirror, as kind of these rites of passage into the next form that we are going to be in. And while there's some truth to that, right? Like sometimes you will have that moment where we will be confronted with an old pattern and we'll decide to do a different pattern. I think it's only part of the story. And it suggests, I think, when we start thinking about things as tests and as mirrors all the time, that there's kind of this energy, this quality to our lives and to our connection to universal energy and our connection to that and the river of life that is about there being judgment passed. And it's about constantly passing tests and getting better and better and improving. And once again, here's where that idea, we are not machines, is so important to this Scorpio full moon. Scorpio is not interested in machinery and is not interested in mechanization of ourselves, is interested in the mystery and the wending path that we are on. And so it's important, I think, that we also, when we're kind of reviewing the last year and a half, or however, whatever cycles that you are reviewing, whatever cycles you are coming into understanding of, whatever emotions you are releasing during this time, that it's not about passing a test and getting better than ever. It's not about, judging yourself and telling yourself what you're good at and what you're bad at and what you've accomplished or what you haven't accomplished. And that it's much more about just being able to see ourselves where we are now and letting the waves of energy, letting the river of life that is you and already is within you move and show you things that you're already working with. There is no test to pass to have access to that. There is no worthiness protocol that you can access now that it's eclipse season that will allow you to access that river of life. It's already yours. So this eclipse season and this particular full moon is about letting that river of life sing, about letting your bones sing, about letting your soul song sing, and to hear it and feel it and allow that to move fully through your body. Of course, we're working with the Taurus Scorpio axis, which means that we are working with like the life, death, life conversation. So this is just a moment of acknowledging the natural way that creation rises, falls, gives way, and becomes something new. And sitting with the beauty of that and the naturalness of that. I think if you have felt any pressures around failure, around judging yourself as a failure, around kind of feeling that maybe one cycle is ending, something is ending, and you feel like you've done something wrong, and that's why it's ending, and it's embarrassment and shame, just remember that it is natural. It's natural for things to come and go. It is natural for the creative process to bring something up, to rise, and then to release. So if you're experiencing any transition like that, this is a really great time to acknowledge how natural that is, and that it's okay. And that as we go through this process, we are also going to open up so many new creative things. They are unlocking. But with eclipse season, as always, we are also opening up the next 6 months, our next 6-month cycle, most of the rest of this year. And so this is also a beautiful time to remember that whatever we are exploring during this eclipse season, it is only going to keep giving to us as we move forward. So we don't need to put too much pressure on this particular day. We can feel some feelings, we can witness ourselves, we can notice where we're judging, what we think of as success or failure, and we can allow our soul song to sing out. And that's all we need to do. We don't need to pass a test. We don't need to prove our worth. We don't need to run around, doing every ritual in the book. And I think it's very important that we're tender and soft with ourselves. For many of us, I think jumping straight to a high vibe, running around, being positive, and just dreaming up everything isn't necessarily the first thing we need to feel. Many of us are going to need to feel that river moving within us, which has so many emotional tones to it, and allow ourselves to feel the aliveness of that first before we begin the process of creating something new. So I'm just really excited to move through this. I'm actually feeling so grateful for eclipse season this year. I have been feeling a bit of stagnation and exhaustion. It's been just a really intense few years, and definitely an intense winter that I went through. And there's been a lot of reassessment, and feeling that river of life churning through again and just sitting with it and listening to it sing has been such a gift. So I'm waiting for the right cards to come out here as I sit here. It's taking a moment. 10 of Swords. Always. I feel like this card's been coming up a lot. in conversations, but it is a full moon, it is an eclipse, and it is in Scorpio. So why wouldn't it be 10 of Swords? Of course it would be. That is the logical choice in so many ways. We will talk about this. I just want to see what wants to follow up that card. One of my favorite cards. I always feel like I can just give the deepest, truest exhale when I see that card and I connect with that energy. It feels so, there's so much peace there and release there. 10 of Pentacles. Wow. Okay. That's so interesting. I'm going to pull one more card. I can't resist seeing what else wants to come up. And Knight of Pentacles. So let's get into this. So we start off with 10 of Swords, the end of a cycle. Yes. And I think we all know that. I think a lot of us are feeling that. We're releasing something. We're releasing a project, an idea, an identity, a container, a life cycle, which is so tender. And I think, once again, with our culture that is very mechanized and very much about constant growth and constant improvement, the 10 of Swords is feared in that mindset, right? Because that means that it's not constant growth. It's not constant success. It means that nature is doing what it does, which is allow for things to come and go. And so if you're going through a process of releasing a container, releasing an identity, releasing a project, releasing something that you've been working on, just moving through a change, this is a reminder to notice when you're judging yourself about that, when you feel like you need to just keep growing and getting better and bigger every second. This is about the peace of letting go and how natural it is and how okay it is to do that. This is an honoring of the closure of a cycle. 10 of Swords is so emotional when you look at the whole suit. It's a lot about the battles we have in our minds and the process of learning through life about when our mind is telling us the truth and when it is being a little sneaky, and also how we allow ourselves to peer into deeper truths. So by the time we get to the 10 of Swords in this process, it is about finding peace in the process and not judging it anymore. Now, we follow that up with the 10 of Pentacles, which is a very different energy, because this is about something that is built over time. Brick by brick, piece by piece, conversation by conversation. This can allude to something that you've built, something that has come to its fullest form. And you can acknowledge that and take a moment to respect and acknowledge what you have built over time. The 10 of Pentacles also denotes a process that is beginning here and now and is a glimmer of how those things come to be in the future. So 10 of Pentacles for me is always a reminder that anything that we are longing to birth into the world, anything we are longing to create in the world, is going to be a slow process. Is going to be one where we take that breath, we connect with the river of life in ourselves here and now. And we start by putting one foot in front of the other and remembering our presence here. I know there's been some discussion with 10 of Pentacles that the people in this card have stopped being able to look around their environs with appreciation because they just take it for granted. It's just been there all along. They don't even have inspiration to do anything anymore. So when we're working with 10 of Pentacles, it's a reminder that there are little places of creation waiting for acknowledgement that are sitting here with us right now. And finally, we have Knight of Pentacles, a very cautious card in many ways, right? This is the guy, when I see this energy, I always think this is when we are getting the lay of the land. We are surveying a new landscape that we maybe have not been in before. And we can't stay in Knight of Pentacles energy forever in our lives because then we would really be a little overly cautious, a little overly held back. But the Knight of Pentacles plays an important role because rather than just rushing around to take action and seeing what happens, like the Knight of Wands or the Knight of Swords that kind of dives in before thinking, the Knight of Pentacles allows us to survey our surroundings and really listen and pay attention, see the ingredients around us, see the feelings that we are having, feel the feelings that we are having, so that when we start to move forward in life, We are moving from a true place, and not just a place of expediency or avoiding, our own becoming, but really a true place, a centered place. And that is what I love about the Knight of Pentacles. And I do think this is an important message, actually, because, 10 of Swords, 10 of Pentacles, those are big energies to work with, right? It's very eclipse energy, very much about closing and beginnings, all of that good symbolism. And I think that sometimes when we're in that, it feels like, okay, I've got to rush out and do everything and remold my life. You might even get lots of inspiration during the next couple weeks, as we move through these energetic waves, and just feel like it's time to just rush around and do everything. The Knight of Pentacles is a reminder that it's okay to also take a moment to get a lay of the land, to get a sense of where you are, to listen in deeply, and know that anything that's worth building and doing, anything that's worth beginning and doing, isn't going to disappear overnight because we haven't done everything. Conversely, it's also going to come about through small actions rather than trying to gobble down the entire platter of action. So it's also a reminder to, if you have those visionary things, give yourself the space to start nibbling at it, but don't feel that you have to rush through it. So yeah, that's what I've got for you all, my friends. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling so many emotions around this eclipse season. I'm definitely going through some shifts. This is the 7th year I've been doing this work. And, in a lot of traditions, the 7th year is supposed to be the year where you let the fields lie fallow. I have not been doing that. I have continued to push forward and create and create and create, but I'm definitely reflecting on what I want that to look like and how I want that to feel and how I want to honor my weirdness, my strangeness, and my own creative rhythm. It's really emotional, and I've been judging myself a lot, I realize. So I'm feeling this one big time. Let me know if you want me to chat about that more, about my own personal journey, struggling with ideas of failure, success, creativity. I would love to talk about that if anybody wants to hear me chat about those topics. We're also going to be exploring that quite a bit in that 4-week series that I'm going to be doing starting in mid-May on my Patreon. It's 4 weeks. We're going to have videos and activations and worksheets, and it's going to be very simple and soft, but something that you can kind of work with and explore and open up as we head towards the solstice in June. So I'd love to see you for that. I'd love to see you on Patreon in general, because we also have activations for these eclipses. We have Zoom meetups a couple of times a month where we get to chat about life and energy and all of those good things. I'd love to see you there. And of course, I'd love to see you on my Instagram, and I'd love it if you stuck around here. We've got a lot to talk about in the coming weeks, and I'm so appreciative for every single one of you who are here. Every time you like, you subscribe, and you comment, you are helping me bring more of this type of medicine to the world of astrology. So I think that's important. We need it. We're longing for it. I'd love to see you all here again soon. Have a beautiful Scorpio full moon and lunar eclipse.